Well, okay, friends. First thing is, I'm very sorry. This generally doesn't happen with me, but maybe because of a lot of pressure, I have put a time wrong on WhatsApp. In fact, at 10:30, I had Marathi medium class, and that I have taken already. But by instead of writing 11:35, I had written 10:30, and many of you must be trying and getting frustrated by not able to join the class. I'm extremely sorry for that. I'll remember it next time onwards that not to do this kind of mistake. Well, now having said that, let us go ahead now. Am I clearly audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Ah, well, okay. In case in the last class, Marathi medium class, some of the students complained that in between my speech is was cutting off. So, in case if you find that, just tell me, or you can just put a message also in the chat box so that I'll try to correct that thing. Well, fine. So in the last class, the kind of introductory class that we had, well, before I go ahead, do you want to say anything? Any of you want to share anything with me? About this WebEx, I have tried to do it with Google Meet, and in which you seems to be many of you were a little bit familiar, but it did not work out somehow because Google Meet that recording is not able. We are not able to do, and I want to record my lectures so that I can put it on the YouTube. I have and I put the link further in our Google Classroom so that at the time of revision it will be very useful to you. You can just quickly go through the lectures and try to understand the things. This WebEx, it does give a little bit of problem, and initially even your senior batch they also face certain problem. So try to remove those apps and material from your smartphone which are no longer useful. Try to install WebEx so that can be very useful for us for learning. Well, okay. So in the last class, in the introductory class where we have gone through the complete syllabus, the we need to start now. What is the meaning of histography? See, the title of your paper itself is histography, and are you able to recollect what is the meaning of histography? Yes, anybody? Anybody? What is the meaning of histography? Let me just check. Ah, well, okay. Tell me what is the meaning of histography. Anything that you can recollect? बताइए किसको बोलते हैं हिस्टोग्राफी? नहीं याद नहीं आ रहा है कुछ भी? Well, okay. Now, let us start with a simple example. You have taken admission in MA, and you might be staying with us for 2 years. Maybe continue to take class, do class for months together online, and then you may join the department and start coming to a department. So these 2 years that you are going to stay with us. Now, at the end of these 2 years, if you are being asked to write a history of these 2 years, your experience of these 2 years, विल इट बी द सेम राइटिंग फॉर एवरीवन? क्या सब लोग एक जैसे ही लिखेंगे? सबका एक जैसा ही रहेगा राइटिंग? बताइए.
No, sir.
नो. व्हाट इज द रीजन?
Every individual is different.
Every individual is different, and that is the reason they will look at the experience, or they will look at a life, or they will look at a past from a different perspective. So that different perspective will be reflected in their writing. At the same time, along with the student, if I also write the history of these 2 years, will it be the same?
No, sir.
Definitely not, because I will look at these 2 years from a perspective of a teacher. If our HOD ma'am also writes history of these 2 years, she will look at the department from the perspective of a HOD. You are looking at the department from a perspective of a student, and then your writing, my writing, and ma'am's writing is bound to be different. And similarly, within you also, it's quite possible that you might be having a different attitude, and so your experience will be different, and so will be your recollection of the 2 years. And when we study history, what we do is we generally try to understand the events that has taken place in the past. That is history. But the way people interpret and recollect the historical event, when we try to study that, that is called historiography. So in a nutshell, in short, Historiography is nothing but history of history writing. The people have written a lot of history about, let us say, Shivaji and Mughal. When you try to understand what kind of person Shivaji was, we need to take into account not only the perspective of the Maratha historian who generally shower a very high praise on Shivaji, but we also need to take into perspective, we also need to take into account the perspective of the Mughal historian who looked at Shivaji as their enemy. Until unless you do that, you will not have a proper understanding of the past. For example, if somebody wants to study the history of these 2 years that you are going to spend in department, for example, 2021 to 2023, and you also write an account, I also write an account, ma'am also writes an account, but after 50 years, if somebody finds my diary and in that there is an account of these 2 years, only by reading my account will he get a real picture of what has happened in the department during these 2 years. Yes.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Definitely not, because he will not be getting a true picture. What he will be getting is only the perspective of डॉक्टर खंगई. केवल डॉक्टर खंगई उस 2 साल की तरफ किस दृष्टिकोण से देखते हैं, किस नजरिए से देखते हैं, यही उनको पता चलेगा. एंड एट द सेम टाइम, इफ द पर्सन रीड्स an account of only one student, then also he will not get a proper perspective. So he has to try to study the account of different people as much as humanly possible, and then only he will he reach closer to the truth, or will he reach exactly to the truth?
Closer to the truth.
Yes,
Closer to the truth.
closer to the truth. Why not exactly to the truth? Will he not find the exact picture of these 2 years by reading the multiple?
Because there will be one perspective.
Yeah. See, reaching what people generally say, ki I use number of sources, I write a very scientific history, and my history is true history. It cannot be a true history. For example, when a historian writes history, what he tries to do is he tries to recollect and reenact the event in his mind, and the way he reenact the event in his mind, he writes them. For example, at the end of the day, for example, आज का ही दिन लीजिए, at the end of today, if I sit down and try to recollect the event that has happened, I will not be able to recollect the event exactly as it has happened. For example, the way I am speaking to you, at the end of the day, if I am asked to take a class again on historiography, it will not be the word by word same. My sentences will be changed, some additional information will be there, some of the information which I am telling you now in next 1 hour, I will not be able to recall it or recollect it at the evening, because by the evening it's quite possible that I may be tired, or my mind is more occupied with the different thoughts. So when a person writes history, it's not a precise exact history, but it is his perception of it. It is the way he recollects that event, that is what is he writes. And that is the reason the number of perception you read, the number of interpretation that you read, you will be reaching closer to the truth, but the exact truth is always elusive. Exact history is always elusive, and that is the reason it is said that history is nothing but a perspective of a particular person. But as a researcher, as a student of history, you should always have at the back of your mind that you have to reach to the truth, and to reach to the truth, you have to read multiple perspective, but you should be equally humble that truth is elusive, because until unless you have that humbleness, until unless you have a consciousness, until unless you have an awareness that it's very difficult to reach the truth, you will not have that humility, and without that humility you will not read more and more. For example, just by reading the history written by the Maratha historian, if I claim that I know everything about Chhatrapati Shivaji, probably I will be deceiving myself, and I am stopping my progress. Until unless I read the opinion of his enemies as well, I will not get a proper perspective of Shivaji. And even in spite of all that, I may never exactly know what kind of person Shivaji was, what kind of person any historical character was, because those people are no longer there. You cannot go and meet Shivaji. Even if you meet Shivaji, it's quite possible that you may not draw a very exact correct picture of it, but what you will be drawing is how you perceive Shivaji, and which will be greatly dependent on your situation in life, your attitude. For example, you are a Maratha, Shivaji may be a hero for you, but what if you are a Mughal? then Shivaji will be your enemy, and he will be the one of the most cunning person on the earth. Are you getting my point, guys? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm trying to communicate to you is that reaching the truth in history is very difficult, and it is exactly for this reason that we need to study the different kind of history writing that has taken place in the past, and the study of different kind of history writing, the critical analysis of the different kind of history writing is called historiography. Is the definition of historiography clear to you now? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So historiography is nothing but history of history writing. By the way, what is in history? You had been studying history since your school days, yes? And then you tell me, what is history?
Study of past events.
Study of past event, okay? Anything else? Anybody else want to add? Well, you are quite close to it, but study of do we study all the past event in history? Do we study what kind of food? I mean, what Babar used to have for breakfast?
No, sir.
Well, we don't study it, so that doesn't come probably in history. So how you define history? Yes. Well, yeah. Anybody want to? Please add. Okay, fine. Generally speaking, broadly speaking, generally we study those events which we consider as important events, which are having certain impact on the people around him. That we study. That is the reason which king used to have what breakfast. Generally, that is not a very important thing, but his battles are important. So we study his battles because that he laid foundation of Mughal Empire. So we study the important event in history, but we don't just study, we try to. Do you remember in the last introductory class I told you one word that is called causation? So until unless we try to analyze the causes behind the historical event, our understanding of history will not be proper. For example, the simple example that I gave in the last class, that the Britishers came in the small number and they conquered this huge area called India. That by itself is not history, but until unless we try to understand the reason behind their conquest, why on the earth they came here, until unless we try to analyze those reasons, our understanding of history will not be proper. So it is, the definition of history is that meaningful interpretation of the past. There are different definitions. So history is meaningful interpretation of the past. We try to find out certain meaning. That is the reason we take only important event and we meaningfully interpret them by trying to understanding the causes behind that. So history is a study of the important event of the past, and it is a meaningful interpretation. Now, when you study the history of history writing, so it should be the meaningful interpretation of the history writing. We need to understand, we need to critically engage with the different texts, the different historian that have lived an account of the past, and that critical engagement is known as historiography. Critical does not mean that only criticism. Critical engagement is thorough engagement where we try to understand the good and bad point of all the historian that we are studying, we could get humanly possible. So that is the meaning of historiography. So historiography in a nutshell is history of history writing, and which is a meaningful interpretation of the historical analysis. Well, and this word has came from history and graph. History, you understood now. History is, we'll be studying about nature and scope of history after this class. And history is a Greek word, and it came from historia. The meaning of that word is a scientific inquiry. So history is a scientific inquiry of the past, and history of historiography is a scientific inquiry of the history writing. That is that we can call it as a historiography. And the word has originated from these two words, history and graph. For example, in school, at least when you have studied elementary mathematics and all, I also left mathematics after 10th almost, and now it's really very frightening, mathematics. My son studies mathematics, but I'm quite afraid of that subject. Recording, is it on? Well, okay. So but you must have studied graph. At least थोड़ा बहुत तो पढ़ा होगा आपने graph. ग्राफ बनाते हैं ना हम लोग, यार देखा होगा कहीं पर ग्राफ, यू हैव एक्स एक्सिस एंड वाई एक्सिस एंड देयर यू पुट डिफरेंट इंपॉर्टेंट डॉट्स एंड देयर यू ड्रॉ अ ग्राफ। पढ़ा है कि नहीं? ऐसा कोई है कि जिसने ग्राफ कभी भी पढ़ा नहीं? थोड़ा बहुत रिकलेक्ट करने की कोशिश कीजिए, अगर आप आर्ट्स के स्टूडेंट है, 10th के बाद में हो सकता है यू माइट हैव लेफ्ट मैथ्स बिहाइंड, but still little bit you can recollect, the graph is having x axis and y axis, and on that you put a different dots, important dots, and these dots are indicative of the important information, important data, and then you draw the graph. So when you have this graph in front of you, you have a clear picture of what is happening, whether the economy is going up or whether the economy is going down. For example, अगर आप अपने मार्क्स जो आपको मिले फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड से लेकर 10th स्टैंडर्ड तक, उसका एक ग्राफ बनाते जाइए, तो आपको अगर आपके मार्क्स बढ़ते गए तो आपको पता चलेगा आपकी प्रोग्रेस हो रही है। अगर आपके मार्क कंसिस्टेंट है तो उस एक लाइन से ही पता चलेगा कि आपकी प्रोग्रेस स्टेडी है। अगर आप मतलब इट्स स्टेबल, इट इज फ्लैट कर्व, जैसे और फिर अगर आप नीचे जा रहे हैं तो आप डिक्लाइन हो रहे हैं, जैसे अभी बोलते हैं ना, कोरोना जब बढ़ रहा है तो देयर वाज एन अटेम्प्ट ऑफ फ्लैटनिंग ऑफ द कर्व। यू हैव यू हर्ड दिस फ्रेज, फ्लैटनिंग ऑफ द कर्व? यस,
Yes, sir.
यस सर। सो व्हाट डज दैट मीन? दैट मीन्स आज भी मान लीजिए पूरे इंडिया में 10,000 कोरोना पेशेंट निकले, कल भी 10,000 निकले, परसों भी 10,000 निकले, तो क्या होगा? आपका ग्राफ जो होगा दैट विल बी फ्लैट. So once you take a look at a graph, you will get an idea that the corona patients are not increasing. But if the graph is going higher, that means corona patients are increasing. If the graph is going downward, that means corona patients are on the decline. So graph is something which gives you a very clear picture of data, which gives you a very clear picture of what is happening. So historiography, the combination of these two words, that is history and graphy, gives you clear picture about the way history had been written in the past. It will give you understanding of the different perspective with which the historian have written their history, the perspective about the different sources they have used, the perspective about their methodology, as well as the perspective about their biasness, perspective about their pro or anti attitude towards something. For example, Maratha historian praises Shivaji, but Mughal historian, for them Shivaji was an evil person. All right. So that kind of attitude, that kind of understanding of history, you will have by studying historiography. So that is why it is very important to study historiography to overcome your biasness, to come closer to the truth. Definition it came from the Greek word historiographia. Graphy means art, or science of making graph. So it is science of making graphs. So when you graph history writing, when you understand the history writing, the trend in history writing, that is called historiography. So it is art and science of mapping history. So this I have already covered. Let me just go through my notes if I am missing something. History of history writing. It is a study of successive stages of evolution of the development of history writing. So when we will be studying about the nature and scope of history after this class, the next topic is that you will understand that the nature of history and the subject matter of history, it has not remained constant over a period of time. For example, Greek and Romans, they were the earliest pioneer in the history writing, and their main subject matter used to be political. They gave a lot of importance to the wars that is fought by the king. But then nowadays that kind of history is considered as done with. I mean, a lot of work is already done on that kind of history. Now the emerging field is study of subaltern history, that is, the people who had been ignored in history so far, lower caste people, Adivasi people, women also as well. For example, a very simple example I will give you. Who built this Taj Mahal? Yes.
Shah Jahan.
That will be the very prompt answer from all the students. Shah Jahan has built Taj Mahal. Has Shah Jahan has put a single stone while building a Taj Mahal?
No, sir.
Then who has done that? Who has done that?
Workers.
Workers have done that. But Shah Jahan has done only financing. He has sanctioned that plan and then financed it. It is the workers who had worked and put all those stones together, and the beautiful Taj Mahal has came into existence. But do we know the names of those workers?
No, sir.
No.
No. Why? Why?
Indian
Because sir, no
was
one
it
wrote
like
about their
Shahjahan?
identity.
Because, repeat please.
No one wrote about their identity
Yeah, see, the very
in
simple thing
history
is
writing.
that very simple thing is that the people who have kept a record of that Taj Mahal, they thought that it is only Shah Jahan's life which is important, what Shah Jahan thinks and what Shah Jahan does, that is only important, and the life of the worker have no meaning at all. They have to just obey and survive and die. And now this kind of perception of history is being challenged nowadays, and now the people say that it is not only Shah Jahan, but it is the people who have actually worked, the subaltern, those who were being deprived of their own right, those people are also equally important. So we see the subject matter of history, it goes on changing. The subject matter, which was earlier used to be confined to the lives of the great man, lives of the kings and the royal and the affluent people, is now gradually changing. For example, Greek historian in the ancient times, 600 BC, they have given a lot of importance to the politics. But later on, the life of the European people were mostly dominated by church and religious ideas, and it is the mostly the religious texts that those that were produced. And that is the same if you study the writing in India about 300 years back, even 200 years back, you will find that mostly those are Puran, and those are writing where they will be describing about Vaikunta and Swarga and Narka, and about the Kailasa. But later on, now these things have changed. Now the human centric scientific writing, for which we find evidences that history has become more important. So the nature of history goes on changing, and in historiography we try to understand how the subject matter and nature of history writing had undergone a significant change. The ideas and the technique that is associated with the history writing also goes on changing. For example, when I have done my PhD, there was no widespread, extensive spread of computers during 2003, 2004. So I used to write my, I used to read the book and write with my pen on paper, and then finally I used to finalize it and then give it for typing. And then after the typing also, again I'll have to correct some typing error and then again give it for the corrected typing. The person was working on computer, but I was not familiar with the use of computer. But nowadays the people who do PhD, their work could become more scientific, their work could become more precise, because they can type themselves. Most of the younger generation, they are able to do that, and they have easy access to internet, so they will be having access to more resource material. So you see now the technique, the way we write history and the way we recreate history, the technique have undergone significant changes. So in historiography, we need to study these also. For example, how the internet have changed the way we study history, the way we research in history could also be an interesting area of research. For example, see now because of corona, a lot of changes have came into the teaching learning process. For example, before 2 years, I had a different kind of task. I used to go to the classroom and then take class, but now I don't go to the classroom. I take class from my room, but it is on the internet now. Same case is with you. You must be going to your classes, but that is no longer. Our technique by which we transfer and gain knowledge has undergone changes. So all these things by which our technique and tools and methods goes on changing in history writing, that also forms a part of historiography. The changing attitude towards nature of history itself, this I have already covered. The nature of history goes on changing. Earlier politics was more important. Now the life of the ignored people has gained significant importance in history writing. For example, dynastic based history used to be quite popular earlier, but nowadays that is considered as a bit outdated. Personality based history considered was important, but that is also become outdated. There is theory called great man's theory, which generally believed that the history is nothing but an account of the great man. We study about Shah Jahan and Shivaji, but we hardly know anybody. We don't know who were those workers who were put the stones together, and the beautiful Taj Mahal has came into existence. We don't know who were the workers who constructed Shivaji's capital at Raigad. But Raigad has become a very important in the Maratha history, and we know the name that Shivaji has sanctioned. Those kind of thing we try to do. changing nature of history itself, we try to do. Just a minute. Okay. Now, why at all we should study this history? This has also come into already in our discussion, that we get a different perspective about the past. That is very important. Then, if there is any politics behind history writing, that also we should try to understand. For example, Mughal historian, definitely they were, if they write history about Shivaji, they will be influenced by their position, and there will be definitely politics. They have to write something that will please Aurangzeb, because their job, after all, depended on Aurangzeb's goodwill. And Maratha historian, definitely they don't want to hurt the sentiments of the Maratha, so they will praise everything that Shivaji has done, and they will try to hide the defects if he had any in his character. By the way, so there is a politics in his writing that we need to understand. Our perspective will become sharper. For example, that example of 2 years I gave, until unless if a person who is studying the history of, let us say, history department of Rashtrasanta Tukadoji Maharaj, Nagpur University, after 50 years or after 100 years, if he read my opinion, different students' opinion, some students might be very good in studies, some may not be that interested in studies. So he has to study the opinion of the both, and then only his picture, his perspective of the past will become sharper. In historiography, we try to understand, we understand the changing nature of history. For example, just the example just now I gave, the dynastic history was quite important, let us say 50 years back, but then under Marxist influence, it is a socio-economic history which became important. And now under the postmodernism, lot of things have become important, but people generally consider as individual personality or the dynastic based research. They're not good research, because a lot of work is already done on it. Now there are different dimensions of history people are exploring. For Greek, the politics was more important, which had which had a significant influence on the history writing of that period. Mm. But then after Greek, it is a religious writing that became very important in Europe. And then Renaissance came. With the coming of Renaissance, do you know Renaissance, guys? Are you familiar with the concept of Renaissance? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, fine. So Renaissance, in short, many of you might be knowing about it. Renaissance, in short, it was a phase in history, in the European history, that has taken place 14th, 15th century onwards, when human being became more and more inquisitive about the nature around itself. And it is an intellectual inquiry into the nature and human emotion that became more important, and that has affected all the dimensions of human life. It affected literature, it affected arts, it affected history writing, it affected science, and in fact, it is believed that it is a Renaissance which has created an attitude of scientific inquiry, and thus set a background for the Industrial Revolution, because Industrial Revolution was not possible without the growth in science, and growth in science was not possible without the attitude of scientific inquiry. So in a nutshell, this Renaissance has also brought a lot of changes in history writing. Now the blind faith and superstitious belief, people started to do away with that. They started discarding it, and then they started thinking scientifically about the human life. Or disease are they caused by, because of the curse of the god, or are they caused by bacteria? People started thinking about it, and then they started dissecting the human body, which was not permitted by church. So they scientifically they trying to understand the human life. They said ki God is not visible, so many of them started questioning the existence of God itself, and then they started believing that probably this is just a kind of kind of aphim, as Marx said. The religion is like an aphim which is given to the poor people so that they can be exploited, or whatever the reason may be. But this different opinion came with the scientific inquiry, and that has significantly influenced the knowledge creation, including history writing. And then after Marx came positivism, pratyakshavad in Hindi it is called. Positivism says that no source, no history. That means, in a nutshell, you have to write only those things in history for which there is a concrete, reliable evidences. So that has again scientified history writing further. It made history writing more sharper. It had its own shortcoming as well. Then after that came Annales School from France, which believes that in history writing we should not be only focusing on politics, but it is a total dimension of human life, including his economic, religious life. All that life combinedly together makes total history. So what I'm trying to tell you is that how the nature of history undergoes a lot of changes under the influence of the different predominating thought of the time. And then came postmodernism after 1950s, which again says that what we have discussed earlier, that history writing is a perspective. You can never reach to the truth because truth is elusive. What I believe is truth is my perspective. What you believe is truth is your perspective, and both could be equally right. So this is again a very very different attitude to look at history. But at the same time, it makes you quite humble that no one have any claim that they only know history. No one can have any claim that they only know the truth, and rest others are doing not a scientific history, but they are doing. So it questions that history scientifically writing is not possible. So historiography in a nutshell, it is a history of history writing. Why should we study historiography? Is understanding the challenges of history writing, different perspective about history, different tools that is using history, politics of history writing, different opinion we need to study, and with the humility that it's impossible to reach to the truth. All the history is just an opinion, and it gives you better understanding of the past. So in a nutshell, I told you about what is historiography, why should we study historiography, and I told you about the different important changes that has came into the historiography, the way history has been written, because it was more important to tell you this, because if the question comes for 16 mark, you should have adequate stuff to write that. So this is where the the meaning of historiography, the need of historiography, the importance of historiography is over. If you have any doubts so far, you can ask me. Yes. Acha, in chat there is something. Let me just check that. Study of all past event. Very good. Shaili Thause, probably she has written definition of history. Study of not all past event. In history, we study the important event which are having some significance, which are having some importance. Well, tell me any doubt, anything you want to know about historiography, or your reflection, or your opinion, whatever. Otherwise, we can go to the next topic and start discussing about history. What is history, its nature, and its scope? That is going to be the next topic. Just a minute. Well, any doubts so far? It's all it's fine for you. Historiography, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, fine. So we still have some time, 20 minutes or so left, 15 minutes. So we'll go ahead with the next topic, that is meaning of history. Now, this historiography discussion about historiography and history, they are in a way interconnected. So in history, like we have already discussed, history is a meaningful interpretation of the past. For example, all the events that has taken place in the past, generally we don't discuss that. And similarly, just a collection of event, we cannot call it history. There has to be certain logical interconnection between the events that we are describing. For example, if I describe one event in Indian history in 18th century and one event in Russia in 18th century, and both of them have no connection at all with each other, then that is just a collection of information. Until unless I connect these two events, that there is certain relevance, there is a certain interconnection, that cannot become a proper history writing. For example, railway timetable is also having a lot of information, but can you call it a history book? Yes.
No, sir.
No, well, there should be a very important logical interconnection between the event. And in the last class, I used the word called causation. In the interpretation of the historical event, in history book, there should be a proper causation. For example, the simple example that I will repeat again: Britishers coming to India by itself will not be the proper statement of historian, proper statement of the history student or the history writer. What he has to do is he has to also explain the causes, that why at all the Britishers came and how could they conquer such a vast number of people even if they were very small in number. So there should be a logical connectivity between the events, and that is what is called history. Similarly, as we have discussed while discussing historiography, the nature of history writing, it has also undergone a lot of changes over a period of time. For the Greek, it was the politics which was very important. Later on in the medieval Europe, it is the religious life of the people that became more important. And then with the coming of Renaissance, the human mind, the human emotion, and the human action, that has become more important. After that, during under the influence of the politics, the importance of a lot of importance was given to politics. So the life of the elite people, the great king and the elite and the rich people, it became more important. But with Marxism, it is a economic life that became more important. Economic causes behind the event that people started investigating, and then came the subaltern perspective, which tries to tell you that it is a life of the common people, which is also important. So we find that nature of history and the subjects topics that is being dealt in history, they are undergoing significant changes over a period of time. Yes. Okay.
So sorry to interrupt, but you have stopped sharing your screen with us.
Ah,
We are not able to see.
I'll just start sharing. Well, okay. Are you able to see now PPT and me both?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let us start with our discussion about history, where we try to understand its meaning, its nature, and its scope. You must also experience that the way the history book talks to you. Well, by the way, did the book talk to you? किसी किताब ने आपसे कभी बात की है?
No.
अच्छा, किताबें भी आपसे बातें करती है. द बुक डिड टॉक टू यू इफ यू हैव वेरी डीप एंगेजमेंट. जब आप सारे डिस्टर्बेंस को, मोबाइल प्रोबेबली मोबाइल स्विच ऑफ कर देते हैं और शांत बैठ के जब किसी में बहुत गहराई से जब आप अध्ययन करते हैं, then the book start talking to you. You feel that when you close your eyes. I feel when I study Mahabharata. Mahabharata is my research area, by the way. I do feel that those characters in the Mahabharata, like Arjuna and Krishna and Bhishma, they are coming alive and they are having discussion with me. Well, you may experience it. Well, what I'm trying to say is that the way history books talk to you, the literature book will talk to you in a different manner, probably. In a nutshell, to put it in a simple word, the kind of experience, the emotional and the psychological and the intellectual experience that you get while reading a history book will be different than the experience that you get when you read literature, let us say poetry or drama or prose. Have you experienced that, guys? Or you never felt it? Yes. No, no response from your side. Was the question too tough? What I'm trying to tell you is that, well, I'll ask maybe more. I'll make it more simplified. Tell me one thing. The way एक साइकोलॉजिकल एक्सपीरियंस जब आपको मिलता है जब आप मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ते हैं और साइकोलॉजिकल एक्सपीरियंस आपको मिलता है जब आप पोएट्री पढ़ते हैं, दोनों एक्सपीरियंस में कुछ फर्क है कि नहीं?
Of course, sir.
है ना? है कि नहीं फर्क? तो ये इसी को बोलते हैं किताबों का आपसे बात करना. That book is giving you some experience. See, I am talking to you. We are having a kind of interaction. Are you not experiencing getting some experience, psychological, intellectual experience? Certain things are sinking, certain emotions, certain thoughts are generating in your mind, and this is a psychological, this is an intellectual experience. The kind of intellectual experience that you have while reading history and the kind of intellectual experience that you have while reading, let us say, economics and geography will be different. And that is the reason this all the subjects are having their own nature. They treat the matter in a different way. Their content is different, and that is the reason they are in a position to give you a different kind of psychological and intellectual experience. So we are trying to understand what that nature of history text is, what that nature of history is, why it is giving you a different kind of psychological and intellectual experience than poetry. So let us start with, the historia. I already told you, history word has emerged from the Greek word called historia, which means scientific inquiry, and it describes the past logically and meaningfully. It's not just a collection of information like railway timetable. There should be certain logical explanation why the Babar came, why the Britishers came, and how could Britishers defeat Indian. This is called logical interpretation, meaningful interpretation. For example, Babar, what kind of breakfast he was eating, that doesn't have any meaning to us. That is not important. So we don't discuss that thing in history. It has to be a meaningful event and the logical interpretation of the past event that we generally do it in history. And the beginning of history writing is considered as 600 BC, and that started in Greece. Because we'll be studying that Greek historiography later on, but you just remember that the Greeks are considered as a pioneer in history writing who scientifically and logically tried to write history. There should be a chronological sequence. For example, if you study, let us say, Aurangzeb first and Babur later, will that create a proper sense chronological sequence in your mind? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Well, you have to study it chronologically. For example, if you are studying Mughal history, you have to start Mughal history in India. You have to start with Babur, because Babur is a person who laid foundation of the Mughal Empire, and then later on Humayun, and then so on and so forth. And then you have to come to Aurangzeb. But if you study Aurangzeb first and then later on Babur, probably it will create a kind of chronological confusion in your mind. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the information has to be meaningfully and logically arranged in the history text, and that is what it is. That is what it makes a history. Otherwise, it will be a kind of jumbling of the information, gathering of the information, which doesn't communicate a proper meaning. History, and there are different definitions of history. Thucydides, we'll be talking about Thucydides later on. Thucydides was a Greek historian, and he says that history is a story of things worthy to be remembered. Those things which are really worthy to be remembered. Babur eating which breakfast is not really worthy to be remembered. It's not, that event is not really worthy to tax our brain, to tax our thinking space. So those things which are worthy to be remembered are to be only remembered. That is what a history is. Aristotle says that it is a story of unchanging past. This is a very interesting definition. The past does goes on changing, but then how the scholar and the philosopher like Aristotle make this kind of statement that history is a story of unchanging past? Does the past change or does it remain the same? Yes. Yes. Does the past change or does it remain same?
Past remains the same.
Past remains the same. Well, but then, like, let us say, if you had been born, for example, if you had been born, let us say, 100 years before, will you get a chance to study in university being a girl?
No.
Probably university itself was not there. University was there probably, but there was a lot of influence, and there used to be a lot of restriction on the girls' movement, and you will not have freedom to study in the in university. Earlier, like I come to the department sometimes on my scooter, sometimes in my car. But my father used to go for his work on foot and later on his cycle. Now, has the history changed? Has the time changed?
Yes.
Then how can Aristotle say that history is a story of unchanging past? Tell me. Yes. Is it a very confusing statement or is it a wrong statement?
It is confusing.
Confusing.
It is confusing. Well, okay. If you compare the life of my father and my life, certain things have definitely changed. Like he used to walk to his work and he used to go on feet, and he used to look after the bit of agricultural land. I don't do it. Certain things in my father's life and in my life has changed. So the past have changed. History has changed. But he was always conscious that I should get good education, and I am also conscious that my son should get good education. Has something remained same in our life?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. He loved me and I love my son. Has certain thing remained same in our life?
Yes.
Well, whenever he used to come back from work, my mom used to give him a cup of tea, and when I go home, my wife gives me a cup of tea. Has it not remained same?
Yes, sir.
Probably. So I will say that certain things in history change and certain things in history remain same. So what Aristotle is trying to say here is that the changes are on the surface. Deeper down, human. See, history essentially deals with human past, human actions. Essentially, the human emotions and the human relation remain same. We still need family. We still love our family. We still love our children. We still struggle for earning money. We still have those emotions like jealousy and ego, as well as love and affection in my mind, as well as the person who was born, let us say, 1,000 years back. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Are you getting my
Yes.
point? So earlier, during Aristotle's time, those Greek, they united together and then they started conquering. Now India is by and large united together. The huge area is united together, and we always have a conflict with our neighbors. So the certain things, the way we fight has changed. The weapons that has changed. Earlier that used to be sword fighting, and now we have missiles and gun and so and so far. But the intention behind the using of gun has remained the same as was the intention behind using the sword. So on the surface, the tools by which we implement our ideas, the tools by which we implement our desire, conquering others' land or protecting our land, has changed. But the desire has remained the same, and that is what Aristotle has changed. So in history also, you will find certain things undergoes changes, but there are certain things which constantly remains, and that is what is called the eternal dimension of history and changing dimension of history. Eternal dimension of history is based on human relation, human emotion, which remains same, and the dimension of history, it changes with time. For example, the weapons that we fight with, the vehicles that we commute nowadays, and the way we dress up nowadays, all these things have undergone significant changes. But there are certain things, human relation has changed. It was expected that once you grow up you should be marrying, and now also it is expected. Things have remained same. You should have a family. That was an idea before 100 years, 200 years, 500 years. Now still people believe that. Of course there are, it is challenging. In Western countries there is a lot of individualism, and people, many people, not all, many people, they don't believe in anymore having a family. But those cases are there. But nevertheless, what I'm trying to communicate to you is that certain dimension of history remains changed and remains unchanged, and probably that is what Aristotle was trying to communicate to us. Well, another dimension of history is that, uh, nature of history, it goes on changing. This we have discussed in historiography also. So the history and historiography, they are closely linked, they are quite interconnected. When you critically analyze the history writing, it becomes historiography. And when you critically analyze the history writing, you will understand that the dimension, the nature of history, it has it has been on changing. I'll just finish it in a short, because this is already elaborated upon, that it was a politics during Greek time, then it became religion, and then under Marx it is economical and social history, it became important. Subaltern history became important. Do you understand the meaning of the word subaltern, guys? Yes. What is the meaning of subaltern? कभी सुना है ये शब्द, सबल्टन किसको बोलते हैं? The
No,
lower,
sir.
the lower strata of society, the people who are generally deprived of their right, they are generally called as a subaltern. So उनकी history important हुई है, woman history, Dalit history. Now the history of the black people has assumed significant now. And then history writing, there are a lot of changes. This also we have discussed. Positivism has came, annal school came, postmodernism questions the whole process of history writing. They say कि we cannot understand the past. It's all a perspective. It is all perception. Now, next question is very important while trying to understand the nature of history. Is history a science or art? Because under the influence of the positivism tells us that you should have sources, you should scientifically investigate them, and then only you should make a historical statement. So, scientific investigation, not making any statement without evidences, comes under the realm of science. So, is history a science or is it an art? Tell me.
So it is a synthesis of both.
Very right. How? How?
Because it involves both scientific investigation and artistic presentation.
Very right. History should have both. If you do the scientific investigation and all your you have verified the facts, whatever you have found are scientifically verified by the scientific investigation of the resources. But if your presentation is very dull and boring, who will listen to you or who will read your books? Probably nobody. So in history, there should be also an artistic expression, or it comes. For example, can you define the art, by the way? What is the meaning of art? For example, you call painting, well, painting, is it a science or is it art? I'm,
Art.
huh?
It's an art.
Well,
It's an art.
okay, I will accept that for time being, but I will question it later on. Well, fine. It is an art. Why you call it as an art?
Because it's not easy for anyone to just draw anything.
Well, it's not easy. So something that is difficult is an art.
So art, it is something creative,
It's something it's
which
something creative. Well, okay, it's something creative, something new. And well, okay, see, we use the word very art is a word which is used by many people, but see how difficult it is. So there are certain things which we experience, which we understand, but it's very difficult to put them in the word, and that we'll be studying later on. Derrida is one of the important linguists, and he says that there will be always disjuncture, there will be always disconnection, there will be always gap between what you actually feel and what you express. We all feel art, but it's very difficult to define art. But nevertheless, I will tell you what I feel art is. Art is something which gives you an aesthetic pleasure. Aesthetic pleasure means, that gives you, when you look at a beautiful drawing, that gives you a kind of aesthetic. Aesthetic is related to art. Aesthetic pleasure. When you read good literature, good poetry, many times while reading literature, while reading good novel, people do cry. Have you ever cried while reading novel?
yes, sir.
Yes, I do. Generally men are not supposed to cry, but I confess that when I read a very touching novel, I cry. Even while seeing movie. Tell me, movie. How many of you have cried while seeing movies? Probably all
Yes,
of you have cried.
Yes.
Probably. Because there are certain movie scenes, definitely we do see it, which really touch your heart and you start crying, because you get attached with that character, and the character is suffering, and you get some kind of aesthetic experience. You feel that pain that the person on the screen is feeling, you feel that pain that the character in the novel is feeling, and then automatically the tears will come out from your eyes. So this, that is called art. It gives you some kind of aesthetic pleasure, aesthetic experience, psychological experience. And history is expected to remember that the presentation of a historian should have some aesthetic pleasure. It should give you that kind of psychological experience that you should feel attached with the character. Have you seen the movie Tanaji? Tanaji, the unsung hero. It's very recently it came. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So we are from Maharashtra, and many Maharashtrian, they have a kind of sentimental attachment with the Maratha history. And when they see Shivaji and Sambhaji and Tanaji, all those kind of Maratha warrior, they get attached, and then that gives an artistic presentation, makes them to attach. They attach the audience or the reader to that historical character, and that cannot happen until unless you make a very artistic presentation of your work. So it is a combination of both. History is science because what you make statement should be based on the scientific investigation, and at the same time your presentation should also be equally interesting. Otherwise your history will become just a collection of dull and boring information which probably nobody will read. Well, well, about the nature of history, we'll be having a little bit more discussion, because if the question comes for 16 marks, you need to fill it with the stuff. The main gist I have already told you. History, what history is, its nature is constantly changing. It is a combination of science and art. It is a scientific investigation of the past. It is a meaningful interpretation of the past. It is a meaningful and logical interpretation of the past. Only important things should be there in history. The history had undergone a lot of changes. It was political, then religious, and then Renaissance came, so on and so forth. Collingwood is one of the important historian, and I have his book. The idea of history, and in this book Collingwood says that it's very difficult to write through history, because he says that as the historical character have soul, and the reader is also having soul, so you get attached with the historical character. Similarly, historical events you cannot write as it has taken place, because you are not present there. So what we do is we enact the historical action, historical evidences, or the historical episodes in our mind, and that enactment we write. We don't know what kind of person Shivaji was, but we recreate Shivaji in our mind, and that we then that comes on the paper. So that is called enactment of history. Then E.H. Carr is another important historian who says that history is nothing but an unending dialogue between past and present. So when you write history, you collect the resources, and then if you are deeply engaged, as I have told you, those resources will start talking to you, like the text start talking to you. The novel makes you to cry. What novel is doing? Actually, novel is talking to you and getting you involved, and then you are crying. The movie talks to you, and then you just get involved, and then you start crying. Similarly, when you write history, you have dialogue with the past. And E.H. Carr says that it is an unending dialogue. For example, if I take resources and if I write history, you also take same resources and you also write history. For example, take the example of Shivaji. If I collect 50 resources about Shivaji, I write my history of Shivaji. And if you take the same sources and you write your history of Shivaji, will my history and your history will be the same?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, definitely not. Because the dialogue I will be having with those sources will be different, because my perception and my experience of life is different than yours. You have a different perception of life, different experience of life, and that is the reason your dialogue with the sources will be different and the outcome will be different. For example, I am the same person might be, but I will be having a different kind of dialogue with you. I will not be having a same kind of dialogue with my wife or my son, because my wife is from science background and my son and have no liking for history. I cannot talk to him the way I am talking to you. He will not be interested. Neither he is matured enough as of your age. So he will be interpreting. For him, Dr. Khanga is a different person, and for you, Dr. Khanga is a different person, because you are having a different kind of dialogue, different kind of engagement with me. Similarly, even if we will be having the same sources, your dialogue with the sources will be different, and so will be your history. My dialogue with the sources will be different, and so will be my history. And that is the reason E.H. Carr says that this is an unending dialogue. Though the sources will remain same, though the history may remain same, the interpretation of Dr. Khangui and interpretation of, let us say, younger generation, I am still not yet familiar with your name, but Takshana and Shruti, whatever it is, their interpretation of the history will be different. Are you getting this point, guys?
Yes, sir.
So E.H. Carr, he defines the definition of history. He defines the nature of history, that it is an unending dialogue between past and present. And the nature, it went on changing. We have already discussed this in historiography. Robert Seeley was an important historian who gave a lot of importance to the political event. And he says that yesterday's politics is today's history, and today's politics will be tomorrow's history, because for him, the political people, they have power, and their action and their decision, it affects the larger number of population. And there is a theory of great man's history. History is nothing but the actions of the great man and the account of the deeds of the great man, which is also being nowadays challenged. But these are the different dimensions of history. Then there comes the history of ideas, where Collingwood says that, again, Collingwood says that we don't really know what kind of people, what kind of person Shivaji was, but we create an idea in our mind about Shivaji, and then we write history. So for him, history is nothing but history of ideas. So we create the ideas about Babur, we create the ideas about Aurangzeb, and then we write. And that is the reason your ideas and my ideas are going to be different, because we generate ideas which is mostly based on our experience. By the way, do you have any class at 12:30, guys?
No, sir.
No. So I will continue for a few more minutes, because this topic is going to be over now very soon, right?
Sure, sir.
Okay. Then Toynbee is another historian who says that history is an account of civilization. So finally, what is history? A meaningful and systematic view of the past presented by the present historian is known as history. So this is the conclusion. Finally, we are reaching after a lot of discussion. But of course, nothing is conclusive, nothing is final. Dr. Khanga is not a final authority on history, neither on historiography. What I know or what I have studied, I'm just sharing with you. You can explore the word, guys. And so, what is the scope? For example, there are a lot of things that affects human dimension, but all those things doesn't come in historical study. For example, tell me, has the Himalaya have affected history of India? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Which way?
The way the British entered the Afghan wars, etc.
Yeah. Very right. So, Himalaya has created a kind of protective wall, and that is the reason there was hardly any invasion from China side. But towards Afghanistan, the Himalaya ranges are having certain passes, and they are not as high as we have in the northeast, and that is the reason there used to be invasion from that side. Similarly, Himalaya is a range of mountain which obstruct the monsoon. Monsoon rises from the sea, and then it goes all across the Indian Mass, and then it strike against the Himalaya, and that is the reason northeastern region gets a lot of rainfall. If there had been no Himalaya, probably all these monsoon rain would have crossed into the China, and probably India would have been an arid country with less rainfall, and it would have not been as fertile as it is now. So in a way, and this fertility has attracted a lot of invaders. So in a way, that geographical feature Himalaya has affected our history. Similarly, in the Maratha history, Sahyadri and Satpura and the Western Ghat, they have affected our history, because Marathas have made a very effective use of those hills to fight against the Mughals, and they could defeat the Mughal after a long war of 25-27 years that we'll be studying in the next year. And in a way, that has shaped our history. But though Himalaya has shaped our history, the Himalaya, at what level, what kind of soil we find, and at what level, what kind of trees and plants that we find, that will not form a part of history. But the Himalaya, how it has affected the human being and how it has affected the course of history, that will be definitely part of the history. Sahyadri and mountain, uska soil content kya hota hai, what is the soil content, that will not be a part of history as such. But how that Sahyadri mountain had been effectively, or the Western Ghat had been effectively used by the Marathas to resist the invasion, that will be the part of history. So, in the scope of history, nature, the study of nature by itself is not a scope of history, but how nature has affected the human life and how it has affected the course of history, that forms the scope of history. So, the scope of history is always expanding. For example, earlier it was politics, then became religion, and then with Renaissance, the human life, and then under Marx, it is the economic history which became important. Under positivism, the scientific investigation of sources became more important. Under subaltern historian, it is a life of the depressed classes which became more important. Feminist historians are there, who says that women are not given due place in history writing so far. Men had been writing history and they have neglected the woman. So now women's history has also become important, one of the important dimensions of history. Similarly, postmodernism is one of the important thought that has influenced the history writing. So we see that the scope of history is always expanding. Within the scope, we have different kind of thing, politics, so on and so forth. I'm not going to repeat it again and again. It has already taken place. I have already discussed this. So here we stop here for today. Let me see anything is left out. No. So we have discussed about what is the meaning of history. It is a meaningful, logical explanation of the important events of the past. That is the one thing. The nature of history we have discussed, how it went on changing over a period of time. It was politics, so on and so forth. And what is the scope? There are a lot of things, lot of dimension which affects human life and its effects on human life that we had to basically deal with. We don't study the nature by itself. For example, let us go back to the simple example that 2 years of history department, if you write from 2021 to 2023, definitely there is no need of studying the different kind of plants on the campus. All right. Because those plants by itself will not be having a lot of effect on our life. If Dr. Khangai start taking class under a tree, then only that tree will become important to you. So the effect of that trees on human life, it comes within the scope of history. Tree by itself will not be coming under the scope of history. That is what about the scope of history I will have to say. Well, any doubt you have now about the nature of history? Tell me. Yes. Yes, I think it was not that difficult. So when will be the next class, I will let you know. And I'll be also putting, just a minute, I'll stop recording because